The night they decided to sell her, Elara Shen wore red. Not as a statement, not as a warning. She wore red because it was her mother's color, the only inheritance left by a woman who died too quietly in a house that was never really hers. Elara had inherited her mother's pearls, her cheekbones, and her dangerous habit of believing that love, even conditional love, was still love. She was wrong. But she wouldn't know that yet. Not for another 3 hours. Sit tight, grab your popcorn, click the like button, drop your comments, and subscribe for more hot stories. The ballroom was obscene in its beauty. Chandeliers dripping crystal, white roses engineered to smell like money, men in suits shaking hands over glasses of champagne that cost more than some people's rent. Elara moved through it all like she belonged, because once she had. She had grown up in rooms like this, her small hand tucked in her father's, learning to read a room before she learned to read a menu. Chairman Shen Wei had raised her sharp, had raised her useful. 16 in boardrooms, 18 abroad studying law and finance, 22 fluent in 4 languages, reading contracts like bedtime poetry. She could dismantle a hostile acquisition strategy over breakfast. At 24, she was the most quietly formidable person in any room she entered. None of that mattered anymore. Marcus had been born, and a son, even a mediocre one, will always outrank a brilliant daughter in a house built by a man with an empire and an ego. She just hadn't accepted it yet. "You look beautiful tonight," her father said, appearing at her elbow, handing her a flute of champagne with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The Duan family is very impressed." "I haven't spoken to them yet," she said. "You don't need to speak much." He said it gently. That was the cruelest part, how gentle he was when he was destroying her. "Just smile. Be gracious. Duanfei is a man who appreciates a merger," she finished, because she was her father's daughter and she understood business language. He touched her cheek once. "My smartest girl," he said, and walked away. She drank the champagne. She didn't notice the taste was wrong until the edges of the room began to soften. What happened next came to her always in fragments. A hallway, gold sconces blurring like candlelight. A door. The sensation of hands, careful in a way that surprised her. And a voice, low and steady, asking her something she couldn't hold on to. Warmth. The smell of something expensive and clean. Then darkness, like velvet, like surrender. She woke up alone in a suite that was too exquisite to belong to Duanfei, whose taste she had quietly researched and found aggressively mediocre. The sheets were heavy, the silence was complete. On the floor beside the bed, catching the morning light like a small confession, was a single cufflink. Silver. Initials engraved in clean serif font, RL. She didn't know why she took it. She just closed her fist around it and carried it out with her into a morning that would dismantle her life before noon. Duanfei had never come. Nobody could say exactly why. A phone call, a conflict, a rival who pulled him sideways into the night. What mattered to Chairman Shen was the result. The merger was dead. The Duan family had withdrawn. Mao and his daughter had nothing to show for the evening except silence and an inability to explain herself. He didn't ask if she was hurt. He asked what went wrong. When she couldn't answer, because the night was still a series of warm, broken fragments, because she genuinely did not know. Her father's face closed like a vault door. Her stepmother called her an embarrassment in a voice like ice water. Marcus, 20 years old and smirking from the doorway in his expensive pajamas, said nothing. He didn't need to. 6 weeks later, Elara stood in her father's study and told him she was pregnant. She still believed, even then, even after everything, that family was family, that blood remembered itself. Chairman Shen looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, as with the same gentleness he used when he was destroying things, "You don't know who the father is. You are a disgrace to this family. Get out of my house." 3 sentences. 27 years dissolved. She left with 1 suitcase, her degrees, her mother's pearls, and a child the size of a secret that didn't know yet how much the world had already failed them both. At the door, she turned back once, not for him, just to look at the house, to remember exactly how a cage feels when it finally lets you go. She didn't cry until she was on the plane, and then only once, and then never again about that. Singapore received her without ceremony, which was exactly what she needed. She became Elara Yun, her mother's maiden name, clean and unhaunted. She took a consulting position at a mid-tier firm and within 8 months was running their Asia-Pacific strategy. She outthought people who underestimated her, which was almost everyone, which meant she was almost always winning. She negotiated equity into her compensation. She learned to sleep 4 hours and function like 6. Her daughter was born on a Tuesday, small and furious and perfect. Elara held her in the blue hospital quiet and felt something she had no name for, something that was grief and ferocity and wonder, all pressed into one unbearable feeling. She named her Nia. She did not put a father's name on the birth certificate because she did not have one, only a silver cufflink in her nightstand drawer and a fragment of a voice she sometimes heard in that territory between sleep and waking. But she stopped wondering about him eventually. There was no room. There was Nia, and there was work. And there was the slow, quiet thing she had begun doing in the margins of her life. The thing nobody knew about. The thing she did in the hours after Nia was asleep and the apartment was still. She had been watching ShenCorp fall apart. Marcus's fingerprints were all over the damage. Bad acquisitions made with borrowed confidence. Partnerships dissolved through arrogance. Shareholders growing quietly nervous. The stock was scattered, devalued, bleeding slowly in the way that only happens when the person at the helm has his father's name but none of his instincts. Elara opened a shell company registered in Luxembourg. She named it NYN Holdings. Nia's initials, her secret, her North Star. And she began to buy ShenCorp shares. As not aggressively, not visibly. She bought the way water moves into rock, slowly, with absolute patience, exploiting every hairline crack until one day, the structure simply gives. She did this for 3 years. By the time Nia was old enough to draw pictures of her mother with crayon crowns, NYN Holdings was the second largest individual shareholder of ShenCorp. And Elara Yoon, ghost, disgrace, the daughter who didn't deliver, was legally entitled to a seat on the board. The boardroom was on the 42nd floor. Floor-to-ceiling glass and a view of the city that was designed to make people feel small before the meeting even started. Elara had spent a significant portion of her adult life learning not to feel small, so the view didn't work on her. She arrived exactly on time, slate gray suit, her mother's pearls. As Nia's folded drawing in her breast pocket like a talisman, a crayon woman wearing a crown, and the caption, in a 5-year-old chaotic spelling, "My mummy is the booze." She sat down. The room went quiet the way rooms do when something shifts in the atmosphere, when the air pressure changes before a storm, and every living thing feels it before they understand it. Chairman Shen looked up from his papers. His face did a complicated thing. It moved through disbelief, then recognition, then calculation, because he was always calculating. And then something cracked behind his eyes. Something that might have been the beginning of understanding exactly what she had done, exactly how long she had been doing it. Marcus stood up so fast his chair scraped. "What is this? Who let her in here?" "No, she has 23%, Elara's lawyer said pleasantly, setting the documentation on the table like placing down a winning hand. The room held its breath. Marcus's face went through its own complicated journey, from outrage to confusion to a fear he wasn't sophisticated enough to hide. He turned to his father. He was still, at 23, a boy waiting to be saved by his father. That was the difference between them. Elara had stopped waiting for that years ago. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a comprehensive audit. Every financial decision Marcus had made in 2 years. Every bad acquisition. Every buried loss. Every borrowed favor now metastasized into liability. She had been thorough. She had been meticulous. She had built this document the way she built everything. In the quiet hours, with Nia sleeping nearby, with absolute precision and zero mercy. "You should review that before the vote," she said. Her voice was even, calm as water over stone. Marcus called her names. Illegitimate. Ghost. A woman with a bastard child and a borrowed name. He said these things in a boardroom full of witnesses loudly, in the voice of a man who has never had to consider consequences because someone else always managed them for him. She let him finish. She had learned, from her father, from years of being underestimated, that the most devastating thing you can do to a man having a tantrum is to simply remain still. It makes them look exactly as small as they are. She was about to call for the vote when the door opened. He was late. He entered without apology, the way people do when they have never needed to apologize for taking up space. He was tall, composed, with the kind of stillness that didn't come from arrogance. It came from certainty. A man who had been tested and had not broken and knew it. His nameplate read, Ronan Lux, CEO, Lux Capital. Lux Capital held 11% of Shencorp, quietly acquired, never leveraged. Until today, when Elara's lawyers had reached out, carefully, without revealing her identity, to request a proxy alliance on the vote. He hadn't known who was asking. He had agreed based on the financial logic alone, which told Elara everything she needed to know about how his mind worked. He sat down. He glanced at the agenda. He glanced at the documentation. Then his eyes moved to the woman seated second to the chairman, and stopped. Something happened in the room that only two people felt. Something without language. The particular vertigo of a memory your body kept that your mind could never fully reach. Elara's heart did something she had trained it not to do. She looked at his hands. She looked at his face. She looked at the way he held himself. Careful, careful. And felt the recognition move through her like a current. Not a memory. Something older than memory. Something her body had carried for 5 years without her permission. She looked at her own hands, at the folder, at Nia's drawing folded above her heart. R.L. Ronan Lux. The cufflink in her nightstand drawer had been there for 5 years like a question she'd stopped asking. She felt the ground shift beneath everything. She did not let it show on her face, because she was Elara Shen. It's because she had walked into a boardroom to finish something she started in a Singapore apartment with a sleeping baby and a fury so clean it could pass for peace. Because this was not the moment. She called for the vote. Ronan Lux voted with NYN Holdings. The restructuring passed. Marcus Shen was removed as deputy chairman pending immediate financial investigation. Chairman Shen retained his title, but his authority was now leashed, answerable, watched. The board that had belonged entirely to him for 30 years now had a different center of gravity. It had her. She found her father alone in his office afterward. She closed the door. Neither of them sat. The city glittered outside like it had no idea what had just happened. "What do you want?" he asked. He sounded older than she remembered, or perhaps she was only now allowing herself to notice it. "Accountability," she said, "for the employees whose pensions Marcus gambled with, for the shareholders who trusted this company, for the version of yourself that still believes women exist to be arranged and discarded." He looked at her for a long time. She had her mother's eyes, and she had always known it made him uncomfortable to look at the face of someone he had also failed to protect. "Elara, I'm not here for an apology," she said. "I'm here because this company was built partly on my years, my work, my ideas, and I am simply collecting what was always mine." She left him sitting at his own desk, looking very small inside his very large chair. Ronan was waiting in the hallway. She had known he would be. She had been preparing herself for approximately 42 floors of elevator descent, and she was still not ready. He looked at her the way she imagined you look at something you thought you lost, with a carefulness that costs something. "I looked for you," he said. "After that night. I didn't know your name. I didn't know anything except..." He stopped, started again. "I looked for a long time." Elara said nothing. The hallway was empty. The city hummed 42 floors below them, indifferent and enormous. "There's a child," he said. Not a question. He had a mind like a blade, and he had been in the same room with her for an hour. He had done the math. "Isn't there?" Still not a question. She reached into her breast pocket, unfolded Nia's drawing carefully, the crayon woman with the crown, the chaotic spelling, at the absolute conviction of a 5-year-old who has never doubted her mother for a single second. She held it out. He took it, looked at it for a long time. She watched something move across his face, something she recognized because she had felt it herself, in a hospital on a Tuesday, holding a small, furious, perfect person for the first time. Wonder. The specific, devastating wonder of loving something you didn't know you were capable of loving. He looked up. His eyes were very dark and very honest. She took the drawing back, folded it, replaced it above her heart. "Her name is Nia," Elara said. "She's 5. She draws crowns on everything she loves." A pause. "She doesn't know your name yet." "Tell me how to fix that," he said quietly. She studied him, the careful hands, the steady voice. Yet the man who had voted with her today, not knowing who she was, on logic alone, on principle alone, the man who had apparently spent 5 years looking for a woman he knew nothing about, except that something had felt important. She was not going to make it easy. She had not come this far to make anything easy. But she also was not going to walk away. "Come for dinner," she said finally. "Sunday, 6 o'clock. She likes people who don't talk down to her, and she will absolutely test you." The corner of his mouth moved, just barely. "I've just sat through a board meeting with her mother. I think I understand the family dynamic." Elara almost smiled. Almost. She walked toward the elevator, pressed the button, felt his eyes on her back. Not possessively, not hungrily, just the way you watch something that matters. Something you don't want to lose twice. The elevator arrived. "Lux," she said, without turning around. "Yes?" "Don't be late on Sunday." The doors closed. 42 floors below, the city carried on, enormous and indifferent. And in a Singapore apartment, a 5-year-old named Nia was finishing a drawing of her mother. She gave her a crown, because her mother always seemed like someone who should be wearing one. Then she drew a tall figure standing beside her, because every queen in every story had someone standing beside them, and Nia had always felt the empty space there, the way you feel a missing tooth with your tongue. She didn't know who to draw, so she left the face blank. For now. Some women are buried, some women are planted, and the ones who learn the difference, they're the ones who bloom in the dark and call it a garden. She isn't done, she's just getting started. Subscribe and see how the discarded heir takes it all.